I mean, it's not the worst movie of 2024. Like, I've definitely seen worse this year. I mean, look, you got Strangers Chapter 1, Borderlands, Madam Web, Immaculate, as far as I'm concerned, Lift, Night Swim. You got some bad movies in there for sure. Uh, this isn't necessarily good, nor is it necessarily average, but it's not as bad as people were saying. But it probably will end up on my top 10 worst movies of the year just because it really could have been so much better. But this is The Crow. Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and look, this is my review of The Crow, starring Bill Skarsgård, FKA Twigs, Danny Hudson, Laura Byrne, and it was directed by Rupert Sanders. And our story basically follows a couple by the name of Eric and Shelley who are brutally murdered, and essentially Eric is given the opportunity to literally go completely just hell-bent on a revenge killing spree, and he's able to have the opportunity to bring the love of his life back by putting the wrong things right. That is basically the best way I'm going to put this. Look, I've never seen the original Crow, and I do know that it's a cult classic. I know a lot of people sing the praises of that movie. Never seen it because the makeup on that actor creeps me the hell out, literally to this day. I don't know if I'll ever see that movie, but I did give this one a chance. And like I said in my intro, guys, it's not the worst movie of 2024. It's definitely not trying to be the best or even good or even mediocre. It's definitely somewhere in between bad and mediocre, just painfully mid, probably. That's the best way to describe this movie, just very painfully mid. But it had potential. It did. That was the thing that actually really made me upset about this movie, because the chemistry between Bill Skarsgård and FKA Twigs as Eric and Shelley was amazing. Thing about it is that takes up like 40 minutes of the first parts of this movie. It takes up the first 40 minutes of this movie, and it really, really, really takes its sweet time to tell this story too. Like it has like no intensity to really get to the Crow part of this movie, and he really doesn't actually fully form into the Crow into the last 20 minutes of this movie, which is like really confusing. But I was all for the chemistry between the Eric and Shelley, and Bill Skarsgård and FKA Twigs truly did a good job. I was all for the little weirdo couple love story that they had going on in the beginning of the movie. But then I literally said to myself as that was going on, I said, I bet you once they die, once she has her fate sealed, or once her fate is revealed or whatever, and she dies, the movie will probably get painfully boring. And I was 1,000% right. The movie is just painfully boring, and the entire time, without me even seeing the original movie, I'm literally thinking to myself, there is probably a better version of this movie out there somewhere. And of course it is, because it's the original movie. But it's like every single concept, every single plot point, every single power that's introduced in this movie is introduced in the most boring way possible. I'm literally thinking to myself, this dude's powers are really cool, and yet they're just not trying to make a big deal out of it. They're not trying to make you invested in the powers. They're not trying to make you invested in the story. They're really just, I feel like they're just literally telling like the Disney live action version of Lion King. That's what this movie feels like. It feels like they're literally just telling a shot for shot remake without putting any heart or any new energy into this movie whatsoever. Like I said, I'd never seen the original Crow, but I could not escape the feeling that there was just so much better material in the previous movie than this one, because everything was just so dry, dull, lifeless, pointless at times, and just ridiculously boring. And it pains me to say that, because I love Bill Skarsgård, and he actually did not do a bad job in this movie whatsoever. He really didn't do that bad of a job. The material that he's given isn't even that bad. It's just they are truly not trying to make this movie any sorts of redeemable or entertaining at all. It really just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And the material that they have to work with is really cool. Like, I'm literally watching this movie. I'm thinking to myself, this should be so much better, but they're not trying to make it better. They're just okay with it being just blah, just whatever. Just, it really just had me kind of disappointed. Like, I didn't, now, granted, I didn't think this movie was going to be good. The trailers were bad. I thought this movie would be pretty bad. And so when all the reviews came out for it, I thought to myself, well, of course, the trailers didn't look any good, so why would this movie be any good? But to my surprise, I didn't hate it as much as most critics did, but I could not escape the feeling that I think a lot of people's problem with this movie was if they were sitting there comparing it to the original, which most people do when it comes to remakes. I felt like though if you're sitting there comparing it to the original, you're going to be thoroughly disappointed. Like I said, I've never seen the original, but I could not, not seeing the original, but can't escape the feeling of thinking to myself, there's something better. There's a better version of this out there somewhere. It just goes to show, like, I can only imagine how the experience was for people who actually saw the original movie, and they probably just despised this movie way more than I did. Like, I didn't hate it. It's not the worst thing I've seen all year. Trust me. It's not. But it's not really worth your time either. It's really just not good. I really think the only redeemable parts of this movie is Bill Skarsgård and FKA Twigs' chemistry. On top of that, the opera house scene is awesome. But the thing about it is, this is literally the film. You have the first 30 to 40 minutes of the love story between Eric and Shelley. Loved that. Then you have this big chunk gap of where you're supposed to start to care about Eric's transition into the Crow. You don't care. You don't care. They don't care. Nobody cares. And it's just done so poorly. Then you get to the last 20 minutes. I'm sorry. Then you get to the 10 to 15 minute scene of the opera house, which is awesome. And if the movie would have been more of that, we would have not been as upset as we are at this movie. And then there's like 15 minutes left that just can be thrown in the trash. It just needs, the movie basically just needs to wrap up. This movie reminds me of two very bad, I think, oh no, one bad live action remake and one bad book adaptation. It reminds me of Disney's The Lion King remake, and it reminds me of The Dark Tower. I don't know how many people remember The Dark Tower with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, but it reminds me of The Dark Tower, and that's not a good thing. The Dark Tower was ass. The Dark Tower was supremely ass, but in the ways of that movie just having no life, not caring about its source material, not caring about making it entertaining for people whatsoever, that The Dark Tower reminded me very much of The Crow. And it just disappoints me because Bill Skarsgård is too talented to be doing some bullshit like this. It's just a shame there wasn't more. It's really just a shame that this movie wasn't treated with more care. Like, clearly you should have got somebody that actually cared about. I know this movie was, stuck in production for a very long time. Like, I know this movie was going through its issues, but my goodness. You could have saved this one, or you could have just put it straight to streaming and we could have skipped all this. Like, really, there was no need to release this in theaters. Another thing I want to talk about is the villain in this movie, Danny Hudson. Every time this actor shows up in a movie, it's like they always pick a villain, or they always just need a guy with a very menacing face, a very menacing presence. But as far as the dialogue goes, he's never given any favors with that. He's always given shit material to work with. And in this movie here, he's given, again, just really crap material as a villain. He's very by the book, very predictable. The movie's really pretty predictable, too. I know it's a revenge story, and it's a remake, and it's not necessarily supposed to be anything fresh and new, but this movie just doesn't really feel like it's ever trying to really entertain you at all. I feel like it's really just trying to tell you a by-the-book revisioning of a movie that probably you could have just found other ways to get people to watch the original, because now a lot of people are probably going to go watch the original and realize just how crap this one was, but we really could have just saved a lot of time. Look, overall, this is not the worst movie of the year, but it's damn sure not good. I don't even know how you're supposed to take that, but it's not the worst movie of the year, but it ain't good either. It's painfully mid. You can skip it. It's really no need to watch this movie. Like I said, I was really invested in the little weirdo love story between FKA Twigs and Bill Skarsgård in the beginning, but by the time we get to the gist of everything and get to the real nitty gritty, which really isn't much. There's just nothing here for you. So for all those reasons and so many more, guys, I'm going to give The Crow a 2 out of 5 stars. All right, guys, so The Crow, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Look, guys, thank you so very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff and so much more. Look, this is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.